So, good morning, everybody. Once again, today, last day of our webinar week of know-how and how-to. I hope you managed to now pronounce it 5 times very fast. If not, you can practice. So today we talk about Nutanix Mine V3 and with HYCU, right? And how is it different? What is new? What's happening in this area? A couple of house rules as usually, right? We'll be sharing a replay link at the end. Feel free to ask questions, unmute, chat. Let's make it a discussion, no problem. And at the end, we'll pull out the swag box for a happy winner. So, as usually, just really fast on who we are for those of you who perhaps still do not know who HYCU is. We're a company who's been focusing on data protection for a long time, and myself included, and we've built as part of our culture and experience, really built a number of major enterprise vendor backup products behind the scenes. And now we have 5 years ago, even we've ventured into our own product, and with the idea to make data protection again simple and straightforward and save time for our customers and partners, right? So that's what we are, focusing on multi-cloud data protection in general, and focusing on our customers, really, with the MPS score, which is really interesting, especially if we talk about Nutanix with Mine with HYCU as well. This is a very important score for our customers and partners, because together with Nutanix, it's a one support experience, and we work together on actually making the customers happy. Even if something goes wrong, we'll be there to address it, right, instantly. And this is what it's all about, right? Being there for our customers. So we live in an era of hybrid cloud, as we mentioned before, but we see all of these, each of these clouds, enterprise clouds, Nutanix, VMware, public clouds, we see each of them really as a platform on its own. And instead of developing one solution for all of these and just building blocks on top and making a really robust beast, right, which nobody can manage and control, and so it's so complex, you need 5 consultants every day just to install the software, right? We took an approach of really developing and looking at each of these platforms and trying to develop a solution which will fully utilize the platform, right? And as part of this, with HYCU Protege, we combine it all together and provide not only data protection, but migration and disaster recovery. So this is what Protege is all about. All right. So now let's talk about Nutanix Mine with HYCU, and I promise it's going to be, we'll be switching a lot to slides as well. So from slides to the actual demo environment. So what is Mine with HYCU, right? When you think about it, HYCU was from day one designed to run on Nutanix. And from day one, beta version, I remember, one of our customers already was asking us, hey, I really want to use Nutanix also for my storage, for my backup storage. Because, I like Nutanix, I love the platform, and I want to have it all confined and, from one Prism Central, I can manage all of these things. And it's scalable, and why wouldn't HYCU run there as well? Why not, right? Just put HYCU there. So this is the idea which was brought by customers to us and Nutanix. And what Mine is nothing else but HYCU running on top of a Nutanix cluster, which is really designed to be backup storage cluster. And Mine V3 is an incarnation of this, which is actually running objects on Nutanix. And that's what Mine V3 comparing to Mine V2 is. But from looking at holistically at the picture, right, it's still HYCU running on your Nutanix, on the Nutanix cluster, right? So we'll talk about all the advantages of this. And obviously, HYCU is taking care of the backup part, taking care of the Nutanix, legacy 3-tier infrastructure, VMware, all the databases, applications, right? Backing it up to Nutanix objects. And also for a secondary tier, very much going into cloud, even tape, right? Even leftover storage, right? Which is interesting because a lot of products now, they say, just buy our storage as well. But why would you buy if you already have some storage, right? So you can repurpose it as well. So that's the essence of Nutanix Mine with HYCU. Okay, so let's go into the actual details. Yeah, there's one more thing, right? You do have this single UI in Prism element where you can have HYCU's dashboard also in Prism and have a really nice experience with that as well. Right, so why Nutanix Mine with HYCU? So this is a point where I'll build out the slides and I'll actually show you why it's simple, right? So let's dive into the product. If I switch to my console, right? So this is our HYCU Protege console. We were seeing it all of the days in the webinars, right? As you can see, all the, everything that HYCU is backing up, our on-prem, Google, Azure, Office, right? So all of this is, you can look at it from holistically, check if everything is compliant, protected. And should I want to do something like I do want to now, I really want to check out the Nutanix Mine with HYCU, right? And how I'm protecting my on-prem environment. So if I click on my on-prem environment and HYCU protecting it, I will be led there. And now I can actually log in and see, show you how it's done. So HYCU is, from simplicity perspective, just a VM running on Nutanix or VMware for that matter, right? HYCU is really a closed appliance. You deploy it in 3 minutes, same as you would any other virtual machine. And once you're here, once you log into the Prism, or not Prism, but once you log into HYCU, it's very easy to find an administration button, and now you add everything you want to protect, right? Is it your Nutanix, your vCenter, your Nutanix files, your physical machines, all of these things you can easily add. You configure targets, where you want your backup to go, right? We'll talk about this more. And once you apply a policy to the set of virtual machines and shares or physical machines, you're done, right? So the point of this simplicity is there is no consultant, there is no long learning curve, there is no long time to, 2 days or 1-2 days to actually deploy next Windows installations, database installations. And it's just a plug and play thing, And once you assign a policy, backups to start. We have customers doing this in 15 minutes. So from policy perspective, right? Also simplicity comes from policy management and what is a policy in HYCU. And what we've brought is this SLA driven approach. So you don't have to tell us this, calendars and think about, hey, I'm going to start this full backup at that point and trying to distribute all of this. No, we just link to the RPO and RTO. How often do you want to, or how much data can you afford to lose? Let's say a day or an hour. That's your RPO. And the other one is RTO. How much time do you have to recover the data once it's lost? And this is something that nobody helps you with, actually, except we, right? Except HYCU. And the reason is we've seen this through years and years of experience. This is always in a pain for our customers in the enterprise world, especially. Can you prove that you are compliant to the business? Can you actually restore data inside the given time frame for the business? What good is a backup if you need 5 days to restore something or 2 days? Not really useful. So if you have a business need 4 hours, you put it here in HYCU policy. And what HYCU does is we will estimate based on the sizes of the VM, based on everything. We will actually estimate on target throughputs. We'll estimate how much time it's going to take us to recover. So in this case, an Oracle machine, a small one, it's going to take me 18 minutes to restore, right? Whereas the recovery time objective was 1 day. Hence, I am able to restore and I'm green, right? I'm compliant. And the beauty of this is if something changes in the environment, then the estimates are going to change and you can really see, okay, something is off, right? Something is not compliant. My policies are not compliant. I can drill in from the dashboard, get notified, and react before it's actually too late, before you realize that you need to restore a machine and now it's going to take you 2 days. Okay, so that's the essence of this simplicity, right, from the very design. Okay, the next part is nativeness, and we talked a lot about it also for Google on Wednesday, right? This really ability to fully utilize the platform which you are protecting, right? So when we talk about Nutanix, right, and Nutanix-led data centers, So what HYCU has is this amazing ability to play, in a way, not play, but really integrate with Nutanix snapshots, right? So what does this mean? Well, first of all, when you add a source into HYCU, right, you can add Nutanix CHV or ES6, right? When you add vCenter, we will do VMware snapshots. But what's interesting, when you add Nutanix CHV or ES6, we will do Nutanix storage layer snapshots as a basis for the change block tracking and then the backup offloading data off production to some backup storage. Now, what's powerful here is this part of Nutanix ES6, right? On HV, nowadays, a lot of customers or a lot of products might claim that they have V3 support, V3 API support, and snapshotting support on the storage layer. But when talking about Nutanix with ES6, everybody completely ignores the Nutanix part and focuses on ES6 and does VMware snapshots. It's like you bought a Ferrari and you drive it in the first gear because you're still having those VM stuns and you're using much less superior, instead of using more superior snapshots on Nutanix, you're still reverting and doing VMware snapshots, even though you have Nutanix as a platform. So what HYCU does for ES6, we are the only solution in the world who's actually going to do storage layer snapshots also for Nutanix ES6. Okay, and the other part of it is the policies, right? When we are thinking how to perform instant recovery, what is faster than a Nutanix snapshot? Nothing. It's already there. So what we say is, let's say you have a daily backup. With this fast restore option, you can say, I'll keep these snapshots around for 5 days or maybe 2 weeks, right? Why would you do this? Because restores happen from within the first couple of days. So it's going to be really fast to restore the data. Either files or complete virtual machine, cloning between ES6, CHV, all of this is fully supported, right? But also it actually gives you another layer of protection because this snapshot is now kept on Nutanix, seen only by HYCU, not seen from Nutanix at all interface. And it actually saved a number of our customers from ransomware as well, because they made an error where their backup storage was encrypted as well, because they exposed it to Windows machines. And the only thing left standing was HYCU and Nutanix, right? And we were able to restore the data from these snapshots. That's the interesting part of the snapshot management, right? All right, what else? Agentless. So everything we do in HYCU is completely agentless. This means also application awareness. And how do we do application awareness? Well, the thing is, we really didn't want our customers to go through the classic pains of, hey, I need to configure my application, right? So what does this mean? You need to tell me what am I running in this virtual machine. You need to tell me, is it what kind of database, which version of the database? You need to tell me where the agent was pushed. You need to tell me where the logs are, where the database, all of these things, and reconfiguration. Why would you do this if we can already find this out from the machine itself? So what we did is we have this patented technology for this, which allows us to start things remotely. And when you assign a policy to, or not a policy, but credentials to a virtual machine, what will happen is we will discover the applications which are running inside these virtual machines and show you the application, right? Show you which version is running there. You don't have to tell us, right? There is a question from Leon. Multi-snapshot fast restore is only available on HV or also ES6? ES6 as well. ES6 as well. Yeah. Nutanix ES6, right? Because Nutanix storage layer snapshots are something that we do, and we can keep these snapshots. Thanks for the question, Leon. All right, so applications. Now we see them, we can really focus on each of the applications, assign a policy. You don't have to think about, is it properly protected? Is it compliant? If it's green in HYCU, it means that we did our job. It's going to be application consistent backup. And when it comes, how do we do a backup? Well, it depends on the database, right? We want to do it by the book. So we'll do a snapshot. We'll do a freeze of the database, snapshot of all the disks, unfreeze, backup, truncate the logs at the end. We use RMAN for Oracle, VDI for SQL, VSS for Exchange, and so on. And what this means is, from restore perspective, you can restore a whole server, a single file, without any agents or anything, or you can granularly now recover the database as well, a whole instance or a single database, into a point in time, into a different cluster altogether, into different distance, all of these things. So very simple. We do all the hard work, right? We will discover. You can really focus on the application and get the job done, right? Simplicity. That's the point. All right, let's cover a couple of other things which are interesting. So with HYCU, we always focus, Nutanix is love of our life, right? From the beginning. And the thing is, we really focus on the platform, again, similar to what we did for Google, right? Or what we do for Google. And what this means is that we fully support all of the features, right? This means we support HV and ES6 storage layer. We support volume groups, right? If you have a SQL server with volume groups, if you have a file server on Nutanix with volume groups on it, the thing is, we will discover the volume groups which are attached to the virtual machine and back them up as part of a backup automatically, right? Whereas sort of other solutions can't do a snapshot of a volume group. They'll have to do an agent-based approach of fetching the data out of it. So that's this sheer integration with Nutanix. So as part of this, as you can see here, right, the volume groups are part of the same backup, snapshotted and change block tracking on top. Shares, Nutanix files, and amazing stuff, right? When you add Nutanix files into HYCU, we will automatically discover all the shares. And when we back them up, it's not going to be traversing the whole file tree for 5 hours, trying to find the change files. Why? If Nutanix already implements this functionality, why would you pay and use a backup product that would do it on its own? Again, treating Nutanix shares as a dumb share. No point, right? Utilize the platform. So what HYCU does, we will snapshot the VM, not the VM, the share. We'll get the change file tracking API to get us the change files in a second, and then we catalog them all and we back them up, right? This is, again, power of utilizing the platform. Instead of 5 hours nightly backups of the shares, you're doing hourly backups, if you like, without any impact on the production. And you have granular recovery capabilities back into any Nutanix file share, into a different file share altogether, right? And another feature which is linked to this is also backup from replica, which is an amazing thing where if you have, right, this is, by the way, is going to be working soon also for the Nutanix files. So that's in the final phases of testing. The way it works, right? What does this mean, backup from replica? It's a feature we developed for Nutanix IT, which allows us not to back up a snapshot or a machine from the original production data center, but if we have multiple Nutanix clusters which are replicating between each other using production domains, then HYCU can back up from the replica snapshot. And this means you don't have to, right? This is how it's simple, just one drop down. And how it happens is HYCU, what does this mean actually for a customer? You don't need to manage anything if this is a robo situation, or if you want to back up everything from a DR site. You don't have to touch the production, right? Or you don't have to touch the robo sites at all. Nothing you need to do. You saving on the bandwidth because Nutanix already copied the data, so we don't have to copy it again. And 3, restores can happen wherever you like, back into the robo site, file level recovery into the robo site, into the production site, right? Or a full VM recovery, wherever you like. So this type of functionality is something that nobody will probably ever have for Nutanix, right? And on top of that, what's really important is that with Nutanix-led data centers, you need new features, new functionalities. You need new releases, maybe a hot fix, right? You want your backup to follow you on that journey. You don't want to wait for Nutanix to fix something for you. You have the release ready, but you can't install it because the backup software still doesn't certify it. What's interesting about HYCU and Nutanix engineering is so close that Nutanix is is actually using HYCU for production, for not only production, but also for testing inside the house. So whenever a new release of Nutanix is out, HYCU is automatically protecting and supporting this, right? Okay, security. And here we come to the interesting story about ransomware protection, if you like. So what does this mean from security perspective? What you want to have is multiple layers, right? And one of the most important layers is, well, first of all, that we are all running on Linux, not on Windows, Nutanix and HYCU, right? Second, you want to make sure that upgrades are really simple, right? And with HYCU and Nutanix, Nutanix upgrades are seamless. There is no stopping. Whereas with HYCU, you're able to just select a new version, new image, and HYCU will automatically create a new HYCU VM from it in 5 minutes without any risk. So it's really, really fast upgrade of an enterprise-grade solution, which is amazing comparing to a classic backups. Just remember the net back, all the other, I don't have to name names, but the point is all the legacy software vendors, it's a pain with all the agents. It's days and days of actually upgrading, right? So that's important because this allows you to keep up to date with the latest security patches. And then from the target perspective, what you want is air-gapped target with worm capability, right? And this is where Nutanix subjects cluster is such a perfect place for HYCU to run, because what you have is Nutanix subjects cluster. You create, right? You create an okay, plug me out, but what you have is the objects cluster. You create the object store, you create a bucket, and that's it. You enable worm on it, you're done, right? So we won't go through all of this today, but and it's really simple, right? But the point is, first of all, you can have a dedicated access keys, right? For this, and this means you get proper air-gapped backups, because you can have dedicated access keys which are given just to HYCU and nobody else. So similar to what we're talking about in GCP, that you have a dedicated service account. And on top of that, you enable on the object store, you create buckets and enable worm on it. So what is worm? Worm is write once, read many. So it's unchangeable, not even by Nutanix support. And when you add this target into HYCU, right? It's an S3 compatible target. There's nothing else that needs to be done. Our HYCU will automatically recognize this is a worm-enabled target and be able to write it. Very simple. And what's interesting also, S3 targets are usually in our heads linked to, hey, yeah, this is a perfect for maybe archiving storage, for long-term retention. Well, the thing is, world is changing. These Nutanix subjects have just an amazing performance, and HYCU also optimized the way we write to it. So what you'll see is, and it surprises me all the time, is performance of writing to objects cluster is very similar or even sometimes better than iSCSI, which is, wow, right? So this means objects are really not just the archive storage. You can really write your primary backups to it without any problems and have them properly protected with worm, unchangeable, right? You can keep a month of backups unchangeable when it's most important data, right? The last month, keep them unchangeable on-prem, close to you, easily restorable. And then you can have other backups on the secondary tier in the cloud, tape, and so on. Okay, so this is what security is all about, right? And there's many, many layers of that, and there's other webinars which cover this, so I won't go into the details on how HYCU and Nutanix Mine can actually help you protect against transfer. All right, another thing which is important with Mine is the scalability, right? What does this mean? Well, first of all, Nutanix Mine V2, right? What's new with V3? We're talking about as part of this topic. Well, Mine V2 had the iSCSI storage, and you had kind of a boxed Nutanix mines. You can have this small, medium, large, and so on. But Nutanix objects are extremely scalable, right? And you can really start custom building them from small environment and then just adding nodes indefinitely, practically. I mean, Nutanix engineers can help me if there is a limit on this, but not to my knowledge, right? Even so, it's hard to get to it. And the point is, this scalability of Nutanix Mine is a perfect fit, right? You start with what you need, you create the worm storage, and then when you grow, you just add additional Nutanix nodes. And you know how Nutanix scales, you know how easy it is to add nodes to it, and there is no downtime or anything like that, right? So it's really non-disruptive. And also from upgrades, from adding nodes, all of these things. And at the end, what's interesting is cost efficient, right? I'm sure sales guys would be doing a much better job explaining this one. But what's important to note is the flexibility of the solution, right? the flexibility of different designs, allowing you to even keep some of your storage if you want, keep growing as you go, keep paying as you grow, right? And allows you also to keep some data in the cloud. Now, the way we write to cloud, right? And when we look at the targets in HYCU, the way we write to cloud, you can have Azure, Amazon, Google, right? You can again have a dedicated service account, so it's really secure. And the way we write to the cloud is directly. There is no proxies, no agents, nothing that you need to think about. You just natively can write to cloud, right? As a secondary tier. And at the end, what's interesting is the HYCU protege, right? How does this all link and combine together to provide this data migration, disaster recovery? And this is what we were talking about on Wednesday as well. And how it looks like, well, this is all about one button in HYCU, right? The simplicity, again, we try to do. And you can migrate a physical machine, a virtual machine, Nutanix, ES6, it doesn't matter, right? We're a completely snapshot-based solution. So what you do is you just select the virtual machine and you click on spin up VM to cloud. One simple option. And what HYCU will do is, all right, let's select the count. So what you need to have is a service running in the cloud from HYCU, right, in Google or in Azure, where you want to do the migration or disaster recovery. And that's it, right? Again, remember from Wednesday, there is nothing you need to pay for this service unless you're actually doing backups with it as well. If not, it can be there sitting tightly for you and for disaster recovery to happen, or disaster to happen and a need for disaster recovery. And that's the essence of this really cost-effective disaster recovery process. Because in the classic scenario, you always need to have something running in the cloud, right? With this, you have our service, but again, our service is running in our cloud, now part of Google, part of Azure, which you're not paying for that infrastructure, right? And what you do is, select the region where you want to restore. And from the very get-go, you have the control over actually of the type based on the cores and CPU. You can select the actual type of the machine, so it's hard to change these things later. You can also select a different network, which you have configured in your clouds, right? You can have a dedicated network. You can have, static, whatever you want from the networking perspective, right? And we all fetch this from the cloud. And when you click spin up, we'll copy the data into the cloud and tell the service, hey, use it and create the virtual machine out of it. It's that simple, right? HYCU does all the job. And then from the circle perspective, right, you can continue protecting it with HYCU for Azure, HYCU for Google in the cloud. And then you can do spin up VM from cloud, right, to get it back. And this is something that a lot of products actually don't do, right? That you can get the data back from cloud, which is sometimes needed, right? So if I want to restore one of these, let's see if I have a backup for it. The point is, we can get you up to the cloud and back. And not only that, we will actually recognize if this machine was born in the cloud, right? Or it was actually running in the on-prem ones, and you want to just bring it back because it was a failback mechanism, right? It was a disaster, you brought it up there, but now you want it back as the original. So you can see here, this one was actually not born in cloud. This was an on-prem machine, and you can keep original on-prem settings. So everything exactly the same is going to be brought back, and you can bring it back into your Nutanix ES6, AHV. Again, all of this hypervisor on the back end is completely transparent through HYCU. So this is what Protege is all about, right? Okay, so at the end, why HYCU and Mine and Nutanix? Well, simple, secure, native, scalable, cost efficient. And we're up to time, I think. So Katarina, if you would pick our lucky winner, and we'll open it up for the questions in the meantime. All right, today's winner is Alan Klo. Congrats. Or Elaine, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. Congrats. All right, any questions from anybody? can we do a session about tape integration? Definitely. I think this would be a more dedicated session. Not sure if it's that interesting for a general public, but Leon, we can definitely reach out and talk to you about this directly. What we do with tape is we integrate through QStar integration, and we can then write to any tape, right? Do archiving. Where can we find the recording of this session by Cohen? This is going to be on demand, available on the same link where you register. Basically, that link is going to be transferred, or that page is going to be transferred into just on demand watching. Ben says tape would be interesting for me as well. Interesting. All right. So let's cover that as well. Thanks, Ben. All right, so from tape perspective, just in a nutshell, since there are a couple of questions, we integrate with QStar. We are able to archive via QStar. So QStar is a software which you install on a media server, which is then able to write data to the tape, and QStar is exposed to HYCU via SMB and NFS. And now with the latest releases, we actually simplified it in a way that you can have a dedicated type of target, QStar, NFS, or SMB. Right. So just a nutshell, but I'll be happy to go into it much deeper with you guys directly. All right. Thank you then. Thanks everybody. Pleasure. Thank you for your time. Until the next webinar series.
Thanks, Marco.
Thank you. Bye-bye.